From the
Gen
New
Z.
Testament for Gen Z. It is the unofficial GPT translation for Gen Z.
The unofficial.
All rights copyrighted by Broseph Smith.
Broseph Smith.
Welcome to God Have Mercy. How are you? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's a hard thing to. Am I good? There's parts of my
your
life.
light is on your phone. I'd hate for your phone battery to go. You need a new phone.
I just need a new case. There's parts of my life, great. The other parts, dumpster fires, but this is life, right?
It's true, everybody. I think.
I think that's
Isn't it?
everybody.
Or no?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think everything in my life is perfect. Every single thing. There's not one thing that's
You're an overcomer.
not true. No, I'm actually preparing a sermon this week on James 1 that says, whatever kind of crap you got to go through, consider it all joy. So I'm trying to live into that.
My mother made me memorize the first chapter of James when I was 12 years old.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Can you still recite it?
Yes. Consider all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its perfect result, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing.
Wow. Hey, do you have the Gen Z Bible we can read that from?
This has got to be.
I didn't think about pulling the Gen Z Bible out for this week, but let's see what it says here. Yo, what's up, fam?
Oh, God.
It's James, holding it down for God, the big man himself, Jesus Christ.
JC.
This one goes out to all the scattered tribes out there. Holla! I'm not lying, is what it says. Listen up, my peeps. When you find yourself in all sorts of tricky situations, embrace that joy, yo. Because check it. When your faith gets put to the test, it builds up your patience game. So let patience do its thing, yo. Let it work its magic so you can be complete, flawless, lacking nothing. Yo, if any of y'all be lacking wisdom, just hit up God, the generous one who never holds back. He won't diss you. You ask, you receive straight up. And when you ask, make sure you got faith, no wavering, because if you're all wishy-washy, like you're going to wave in the ocean, getting tossed around by the wind, bro. So don't even think for a second that you'll get anything from the Lord if you're all unsure and flaky. That's the passage for Sunday from the New Testament for Gen Z. It is the unofficial GPT translation for Gen Z.
The unofficial.
All rights copyrighted by Broseph Smith.
Broseph Smith.
There you go.
It's more like the hip-hop Bible, right?
It does kind of sound like hip-hop. I don't know any Gen Z. I mean, my kid's Gen Z. They don't talk like that.
No. But there is a bunch of like slang now. Speaking
of Gen Z, so I thought today we'd kind of just maybe discuss for a few minutes. There was a brand new research study that just came out by Pew, which is not Pew like smelly, but Pew like Pew Research.
PEW.
Yeah. They do all sorts of surveys and research and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of stuff around religion. And they actually do this every year, and they've done it for many years. But they just came out with a new one, and here's a couple of things that I thought was interesting, and I thought you could weigh in on it with all your great wisdom.
My knowledge and, yes.
Well, that's why we set it up. We read James from the Gen Z.
It's going to be a quick podcast.
So this massive study of the American religious landscape from Pew Research Center found that few 18 to 29-year-olds consider themselves religious. A majority, Jeff, are you 18 to 29? You're past that now. Okay, just a little bit. A majority, 54%, never attend religious services of any kind. And another 21% say they only attend once or twice a year.
That's pastors' wives and...
the 21%? So the Gen Z
category.
pastors' wives or pastors' husbands?
I'm saying there's two categories.
Or husbands?
Or husbands, sorry.
Yeah. See, the old guy, man, you have to keep him correct. You got to take care of him. I'm taking care of
Back in my day.
I'm taking care of you. Well, you did. It was called the Pastor's Wives Retreat.
until like 3 years ago.
Oh my God. You're gonna get
No.
canceled.
Until Bishop Huey came, I'm
You're
sure.
gonna get so canceled. Don't cancel the podcast. Just cancel Matt Russell.
I don't think.
Although-
I don't think you can get canceled anymore.
Now, I was gonna say now I don't think you get canceled for that. So anyway, if you think about that, from 18 to 29, you have 54% say they never attend religious service of any kind. Another 21% say they only go once or twice a year. So that's, if my math is right, 75%. 75%
Dude,
of people in their 20s.
don't go.
Or very
A few.
few of them once a year. A third of the 75%. That's crazy. I guess it makes sense though, because like when we say there's a lot of young families that have been coming to church here, they are like over 30 because they have kids. You know, they're having families now and they have kids.
Yeah.
So when we say young, that's young for us. It's not young according to Pew.
No.
Most young adults, however, say that they are spiritual, even though they're not religious. This always amazes me. I'm spiritual, not religious. I never really knew what that meant.
It's a
But-
red flag when dating.
Red flag with dating. Jeff said, I'm spiritual, but not
But
religious.
not religious.
Yeah. Well, it was nice seeing you.
Is that better? Is that better than I'm religious but not spiritual? Which is what I think we have.
That would
now.
be worse. That would be way worse. We've had that for many years.
Yeah.
So more than 70% of people born between 2000 and 2006 believe that there is something beyond the natural world. 82% believe that people have souls. 76% believe in God or a universal spirit, and nearly 60% report feeling a supernatural presence several times a year or more. So what they're doing is they're helping you to define their categories of what does it mean when you're spiritual but not religious. So spiritual means I think that a person has a soul. I think there's an afterlife. I think there's a God. So all those folks who may be atheists who are rooting for the decline of the organized religion, I mean, you might be getting that, but you're not getting
Yeah.
like what you dreamed about, like people who would just
Yeah.
give up on God or the divine or anything else like that. So it's interesting to me, a couple of other things that they continue to point to sharp declines in Christianity. The number of people identifying as Christian dropped about $5 million over $5 million people over 7 years. While the
5 million people in 7 years.
While the percentage saying they had no religious affiliation, a group sociologists called nuns, rose to be now nearly 1/4 of all adults in America. So 25% of all adults consider themselves non-affiliated, nuns, duns, whatever. So society is less religious in the 21st century. And I think what they mean by religious versus spiritual has all the components of, you know, I believe in a divine, or I believe in a soul, or I believe in an afterlife, or I believe all those sorts of things spiritually. But I would think religious, they mean people who actually attend church or engage in certain practices that would be Christian, like reading your Bible or praying or going to church. Because that was the first statistic they lifted up there was 54% don't go to church at all, and 21% go once or twice a year. So there's
Super interesting.
far less religious society. And I wonder, you know, when you go to Europe, they have, like, even in Scotland, in Edinburgh, they have a couple of beautiful, beautiful churches that are pubs. Like nightclubs. Like there's bands. And like there's this one there that's not far from the Royal Mile. And it's gorgeous spires. And it's got like this red and black paint job that they put on it. Because I was like, well, that's a hip church. Well, it's not a church. It's a venue now.
Yeah.
It's a bar.
I was in D.C. a couple of it was last year, and there's an old historic church there that they have turned into a hotel, and the sanctuary is the lobby. And there's bars on either side of like in the nave. There's 2 different bars, and it's like it's kind of a bespoken hotel, but the sanctuary is now just a place you can get drinks and hang out, and you know.
Well, you know, there was a restaurant here in Houston.
Oh, Laura.
That was
Laura.
no.
Laura. Yeah.
Was it Laura?
On the Heights.
Well, there was one there, but there was another one I thought that was like Kirby and Shepherd or something, wasn't it? It was built in a church. I don't know if it's still there anymore.
But Laurel is a restaurant in what Heights? The Heights.
And it's built in a church?
They took a church and it's still the same structure. They just you walk in and the sanctuary is.
See, I would think that'd be actually a great business model. Like if you're someone looking to like do something like that, you can probably buy an old church if it was in the location you wanted. Pennies on the dollar because you can't use. I mean, people are just going to buy for the land. They're not going to buy the building.
Right.
But if you're going to turn it into like a cool little venue, coffee shop, bar, whatever, you could do that. They go on. They say the percentage of the decline of Christianity is actually slowing down, though. So and it says even maybe leveling off. Now that doesn't mean that it won't start back up again.
Yeah.
But the percentage of Protestants in America has not gone down significantly since 2019. Catholic numbers have remained steady since 2014. And so you still have 44% of people polled said they pray every day. 33% said they still go to church on a regular basis. All those numbers have remained stable since 2019. That's interesting. Do you think that has anything to do with the pandemic?
And I don't know. What they go on to say is
Jeff got some TV time.
What they go on to say is that it has more to do with age than anything else. That you've got older Americans that are holding on to that 33%, and when they pass away, when Boomer passes away and older, that's going to rapidly decline.
So you think when the Boomers finally check out, which I don't think they ever will, they're not going to they're not letting
to
go.
Satan.
They're not letting go of their resources. It's like we worked hard for this.
Yeah,
We're not just handing it over to you youngins. Well, isn't that one of the things that millennials are so like? See, I'm the generation between the Boomers and the millennials.
I know.
I've had to deal with it. It's no skin off my back.
No,
we're kind of
used to
like the Gen X. That's us, right? Gen X.
Yep.
My generation is characterized. The Boomers are characterized as like, look, we own everything and we make all the decisions, and you just got to like it, all right? And millennials are all upset about that. They're the generation behind us. But see, we Gen Xers learned a long time ago. We just sit back and watch everybody, destroy the world.
Yeah, and we do our own thing.
We
create our own thing. That's
why people
things within things.
People are like, John, man, you just handle the pressure so well, and you're such a non-anxious presence. And I was like, yeah, you don't understand. I'm Gen X, man.
Yeah.
I've had to live with Boomer parents my entire life and Boomer people who run the world, and I just sit back and go, you'll screw it up soon, and then there'll be a different group of Boomers on the other end of the ideological spectrum, and I'll watch them take over because they sure as hell are not going to pass it over to us. No. So they'll take it over, and then you know what? They'll screw it up too. Just give them time. But all those folks are kind of dying off.
Yeah.
So you're going to have people in my generation in their 50s, people in millennials. Man, when the millennials start running things, there's going to be a rude awakening in this country.
You're so funny, dude.
And I'm thinking the worst case. No, but I'm just thinking. Here's how I'm thinking. Here's my logic. My logic is millennials. Like, there's this whole movement in society. It's like we want people to work. We want people to pay their way. We want people to, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Have you ever met a millennial? It's like you don't have oat milk. I mean, for my double espresso white. My flat white
because my
flat white. You don't have nut milks for my flat white. So when those people start running things,
and that's trauma.
It's just
that's
trauma. I mean, all these things that are being gutted in the federal government, they're all going to be back to provide nut milks and nice cushions in the waiting rooms. Like at the bus stops, are now going to have comfortable seating, right?
Nap pods.
Talk about getting yourself canceled. It's a good thing millennials are going to rule the world. I love millennials. Hey, I'm Gen X.
You produced a couple.
I've been watching. We sit back and watch Boomers rule the world. I'm glad to pass it off. I mean, it can pass us. I'm glad for it to pass Gen X.
Yeah.
We're the best at just observing and watching and saying, hey, we'll weigh in with a little help here and there. But
I think we create our own structures too within the whole Boomer structure, right? There are footpaths that Gen Xers have created that Boomers know nothing about. whole cities exist that we've built, structures, institutions and within institutions, so I think
See, we bridge the gap. We're that wonderful generation that bridged the gap. Like when we came home after school, you just go out and play. There's no cell phones. Your mom doesn't know where you are, and she's not worried about you.
No.
And then when it gets dark, you're supposed to go home. It gets dark, it's dinner time, you go home. My mother didn't worry, never once worried, like, I wonder what's going on. I wonder if he's okay. Never happened. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers.
Geolocators.
We didn't have GPS tagging systems. Yeah, we didn't have Find My iPhone. Let me track where my kid is.
We know where.
They knew I was in like 3 or 4 places. I was at Jason's house, Greg's house, Ricky's house.
But you better not be at Sarah's house. That was always a rule.
Yeah. But also we came along, we were young enough, like when, pagers and cell phones started becoming big. I mean, we were in the front end. We were the front end, like, of our professional careers. We started using these things. I mean, I still have in my office my cell phone from a car. I have to bring it one day.
Your Nokia
I know. Oh, yeah.
flip
It's
phone?
got the no, dude. This is a bag phone.
Oh, this is
like
the brick?
not like a satellite, not like that, but it's a bag phone with a big leatherette bag, and you open it up,
Leatherette.
and it has the handle has the keys on the back of it.
Yes.
And it looks like a real phone. It's huge, and it's got the cord attached to it, and you have the other cord that went, and it was a magnet, and you put the antenna up on the top of your car.
Yes, I remember that.
Like the
Like
cops when they put
Hill Street Blues.
they put the light on top of the car. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's interesting. 78% of Americans over the age of 65 are Christian, according to Pew. And 3/4 of people that age, so 75% say that their religion is important to them. So that's what you're talking about. I mean, as that group goes away.
Yeah, that 33% is going to plummet.
Yeah, it could. And most Americans between 18 and 29 do not identify as Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'm kind of, maybe we'll unpack this in a bit, but I'm kind of non-curious, right? Because people will ask me often, are you a Christian? That people that don't know me. And often I have said, you tell me what you think a Christian is, and I'll tell you if I'm that, right? Because Christianity has a lot of different expressions that, not everybody wants to be a part of, right? And so when you're identifying as a Christian, particularly in these kind of polls, it's interesting just to think, well, do I want to be identified with those folks? Is that what I am? And so people begin to use language like Christ follower. I'm not a Christian. That represents Christendom.
Most of these people don't have a problem with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like they read Jesus. Like I was talking with a guy yesterday, and he was talking with a young person, and it's like, he didn't go to church. He is not going to go to church.
Yes.
But he's like, man, if you open up the Bible and you read the words of Jesus, he said, I probably
all
would
day
agree
long.
with everything he said.
All day long.
I was like, But here's this, when you talk about nuns, it's 25% now of the population. And then you're also talking about this spirituality, right? People say they're spiritual, not religious. So a lot of the nuns would be spiritual, but not religious, I would think. So if they're 25%, but listen to what Pew says, 79% of all of the people surveyed said that they believe there is a spiritual reality beyond nature. 61% of all of the people that were surveyed said that they sense the presence of something supernatural at least several times per year. 86% believe that people have spirits. 70% say they think there's an afterlife, whether that be heaven or hell or both. And listen to this, 3/4 of Americans say they felt spiritual peace in the last year. More than 60% say that they report thinking about God a lot. So nuns are not people who are not curious or not interested in spirituality necessarily. Some might be, but I would guess that a large percentage of people that we say nuns or people who don't go to church have a lot of spiritual sensibilities, according to this.
Yes.
So, how does the church minister engage in our call as disciple makers, right? How do you engage in a culture that's, in some ways, when I read this, I think a lot about the first century church.
Yes.
You know, because they had many religions, they had faith, and some of it was codified, state-run, whatever, but some of it was there were probably a lot of different expressions of spiritual faith.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the word religious in Latin, religio or stuff, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce that.
That's
but it
Latin
wasn't
to you.
bad.
Religio.
Thank you. It means ligament. And so it means a connector. And I think what people are pushing back against is the fact that this institution used to connect us now has divided us. These things that used to provide ligaments that were attaching and allowing for deeper movements of these different parts have now become an institution that draws lines in the sand and has become part of the cultural, as you have said, the couple of years, those things that divide, right? And so I think that folks that are saying we're spiritual, not religious, are basically attempting to somehow hold on to a reality that religion has said, you tell me what you believe and I'll tell you if you belong, right? That we hold all the religious experiences and you can have them and understand them, but you have to believe these things. And I think what the spiritual but not religious are saying, and I think it has to do with the fact of Pentecost, that if the Holy Spirit has been poured out on all flesh across the earth indiscriminately, like your sermon a couple weeks ago about the sower, just indiscriminately, the Holy Spirit's out there. It makes sense to me that people would resist an institution that requires a loyalty test before they can understand the experience they have. But if Augustine's right, our hearts are restless. We're longing for an encounter with divine presence. Yeah. And that supersedes, that's what it means to be human. And so I think some of those folks might be attempting to get at language that bears witness to that reality.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me. I think the work and the role that we need to do, I think we've forgotten.
Yeah.
Modern churches are like, our only audience is like the people who are already here. When I say modern church, I would say in the last 100, 150 years, 200 years. I mean, well, probably 100, 150 years, right? So that would be people who are like, we're really just targeting the people in our pews or the people that are like the people in our pews.
Right. It'd be interesting for us to go like on a learning journey to the Taizé community in France. Can I lead that, please?
Yeah. Only if I can go.
Or to go up to Seattle where there's Vespers on a Sunday night that has, I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of young adults that are there.
So you're like a Northwest
Christians.
Seattle-ish Portland kind of guy, right? You love that place.
I'd like to go to Taizé or to Taizé in France.
Yeah,
Are we taking dibs?
But what I'm saying is this article starts out with a guy who was a pastor in Portland.
Okay, yeah.
And he talks about that the young people he meets, teenagers, and he said they have faith in everything, like crystals, aliens, Native American religion,
Meditation,
paganism, pantheism,
yes.
wellness-focused mysticism. Even, he said, a floating pizza in the sky.
Yes.
He said it's like a playful kind of charcuterie board of spirituality.
Yeah. Don't you think that's, I mean, I think it's a reaction against the hyper-rationalism that we have constructed Christianity to be.
Point. Yeah. So religion, two roots, re is again. Mm-hmm. And historically there, it's like either relego, to read again, or relegare, which means to bind again, to connect. You were talking about connect again. And those historically have been like the two. So the read again kind of speaks into Western Christianity's, the right reading. Get into the right answer, the correct reading, the correct kind of sense of that.
Yeah. And I think it's because we actually don't believe in the Holy Spirit as a church.
I do.
Well, I know you do. But I think that often what we do is then we have these kinds of...
I'd like to be on record that I believe in God, love Jesus, and I believe in the Holy Spirit.
just so you won't get canceled later,
Exactly.
or earlier. But I think what I want to say though is I think that often we don't have a real belief that the Spirit is up to something, and so what we have done is we've created a kind of Bibleism that moves us back into a text, not into a living reality. And I think that what is happening, particularly in our culture, is people are done with that. Is that they're wanting to find a type of experience that actually supports what it means to be human. Our theology does that when we talk about the incarnation, when we talk about kenosis, but we have just forgot who we are. And we think that, like what Jesus said, man and women weren't made for religion. You weren't made for that. Religion was made for us to work ourselves out, our faith with fear and trembling. And when that ceases to exist and be the case, it can go away. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot now, is this former thing going.
So if you weren't a pastor, what would you do?
Oh, I don't know. Probably
What job would you do?
I'd run a sweatshop in Southeast Asia, I think.
Making cell phones?
Well, yeah, it's something that exploits people.
Oh, that's coming back to the U.S. now, by the
Oh,
way. So.
okay. Well, I don't have to travel. I don't know what I do. I don't know.
Consultants.
Consultants. That's
That's
right.
what we need to be
That's
consultants.
right. When every pastor has a crash in their life. Anyway.
Oh,
Can you?
on that note, hey,
Can
if
you
you like
please
the
take-
podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. No, leave it in,
No,
seriously, because
no.
I'm looking for controversy. I think that it's good for ratings. Like, subscribe, share with a friend. Pod have mercy. I think this Pew study, this new survey, is fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's something we can talk about some more in the future. But I think also it kind of, rather than sort of step back and go, how does the church save these people? It's like, man, these people.
Thank you, 1982.
Well,
It wants your thoughts back.
The difference is these people don't feel like they're lost.
No.
So how do you meet them in this place? It's almost like Paul going to
Yes.
the area. What is it? The Agora, not Agora, but it was where all the thought leaders, the Areopagus or whatever. And he was like, that God there that doesn't have a name on it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you about that one.
It might be the church that needs to be saved.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
More blasphemy. So, all right. Well, anyway, make sure you share this with someone who may find it interesting, and if they don't, just tell them you're not friends anymore. Well, I'm John Stevens,
And I'm Matt Russell.
and he's part of the podcast at least for another week or two.
Yes,
until
this will be
gets
my
released.
last podcast.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.